Yooka-Laylee. Probably been a while since you've last heard of these two. That's the thing, really. We haven't really been too sure of the fate of this franchise, and hey, why not talk about it? Hello, I'm Vivi and welcome to the channel. Looking at the overall picture, Yooka-Laylee, if you recall, was funded via a successful Kickstarter campaign. This project back then was marketed as a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and ever since then, this series got two iterations. First one being Yooka-Laylee, initially launched back in April 2017, and the other non-direct sequel to the first game, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, released back in October 2019. Alright, there is one lingering question, that being where is Twoka-Laylee, or where is Yooka-Twolee? Short version, we don't currently have anything confirmed surrounding a potential direct sequel to the first game. Now, what's up with these titles, Twoka-Laylee and Yooka-Twolee, you might ask? These are actually names which the fans have been speculating for a future sequel. Seeing as how Playtonic Games is composed of ex-Rare employees, ex-Banjo-Kazooie workers to be precise, the community's been using a similar play-on-words thing like Banjo-Tooie, that being a sequel to Kazooie during the N64 era. With that said, before we dive into the release history of this franchise, I'd like to add that a couple years back, 2021 to be precise, the team at Playtonic seemed to have been hinting at the future of the company, but hey, that's something which would fall in the long version of the question above, but we'll get into that later. Before we get there, let's go over the history of releases for this franchise. Yooka-Laylee started as a Kickstarter way back in 2015. Having reached their goal successfully, the team back then had a release date set for October 2016. There was a delay around that time, so the official release turned out to be April 11th, 2017. The game launched on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One. Later that year, the game received a port on the Nintendo Switch. Digital version released first. As for the physical version, it was originally planned to release in August 2018 via limited run games. The latter did happen via various bundles at that, but due to challenges beyond their scope and financial reasons involving backers, the physical version got pushed back to early September 2018. Next up would be the famous 64-bit Tonic. Tonics acted as game modifiers. Some of them acted as character enhancements, others could modify the graphical settings of the game like the 64-bit Tonic we just mentioned. This Tonic right here was their attempt at tackling a more 64-bit style of graphics, retro-themed type of thing. This was announced back on October 26, 2018 to be exact, and initially launched on Switch and PC on April 1st, 2019. Other platforms finally received this Tonic on April 30th, 2020. Next, we move on to the Impossible Lair. This was a 3D/2D hybrid sort of game. Playtonic Games might have called it 2.5D. In this one, compared to the first game, players would traverse an overworld in almost 3D and complete actual levels in 2D. This game released on October 8th, 2019 on all platforms from the get-go. There was in fact a pre-order bonus, Trousers Tonic Pack. One of these tonics was the 64-bit Tonic. Now, as you can notice, this version of the 64-bit Tonic looks much more defined, and fans certainly noticed the clear difference between this version and the one in the original game. With all that feedback, Playtonic decided to update the 64-bit in the original game to the one we got in the Impossible Lair. This happened on October 30th, 2020. As for other things, a free Yooka-Laylee themed DLC released in KO the Kangaroo, a game released back in 2022, a modernized version of its previous entries from 2 decades ago. This one got released on October 27th, 2022, and gave KO a Yooka costume. Trouser, a character from Yooka-Laylee, later guest starred in another indie 3D platformer, Clive and Wrench. Speaking of guest appearances, Brawlout. Not only did these characters appear, but they also got their own map. And nowadays, you can find Yooka-Laylee Special Steam Bundle Paws and Claws, a 3-dev team collab. Here's something you probably didn't know. During their Kickstarter campaign, the game was also planned for the Wii U. Due to some unforeseen technical issues, they simply cancelled this version, and in order to make up for it, they would give backers the choice to either get a refund or choose another platform of their liking. Back in December 2017, there was a Triforce boxy edition of Yooka-Laylee. This one was planned for the Switch edition of the game. From the looks of it, this was like a collector's box type of thing. It was running with a price tag of $59.99 USD. Now for some reason, this whole thing right here seemed to have just faded out of existence. To word it differently, the company Triforce itself seemed to have disappeared. In 2021, Andy Robinson, a former team member at Playtonic, tweeted, "In 2016, we lost tens of thousands of Yooka-Laylee Triforce statues to warehouse limbo after the company mysteriously went bust. Now, they've turned out in Philippines shops for less than $10 each." Yooka-Laylee also had DLC, originally planned as free DLC for backers, as well as an orchestral soundtrack. Unfortunately, none of these came to fruition, and every backer received an email regarding the news back in April 2019. As compensation, backers who were anticipating an orchestral soundtrack release received the first game's OST and Impossible Lair's OST copies for free. Since we brought up the Impossible Lair, ever since its release, some folks have been wondering whether or not this game is a sequel to the first. It might seem like it, especially with the main baddie being back, but it's not the case really. A while ago, at least around the time this game was newly released, the website gave us an answer along with extra details. No, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair isn't a direct sequel. We've got lots planned for the future of the Yooka-Laylee universe, but we want to approach each with a fresh take, as each game is an opportunity for us to add new mechanics and gameplay that isn't necessarily limited to what's happened before. Then on their Twitter/X back in 2019, it's not Yooka-Laylee 2, but it does take place after the events of the first game. We're absolutely open to doing a 3D platforming sequel in the future. So it's not a direct sequel, and on top of that, the team, at least back then, seemed to have teased the future of this IP. Nothing was set in stone, but they seemed to be open for more. Back in December 2019, Playtonic's Gavin Price, fun fact, former worker at Rare from back in the day, was interviewed on the Forever Classic podcast. Here he discussed the journey of working on the Impossible Lair and its premise primarily. As stated in their response to whether or not this game is a direct sequel to the first, they wanted to approach the Yooka-Laylee universe with different takes, new gameplay and mechanics. The Impossible Lair just so happened to be one of them. Instead of traditional 3D, they went with a more hybrid approach, call it 2.5. Explore an overworld in almost 3D and play actual levels in 2D like we mentioned before. This game, Price explained, solved a problem. The how-to entice players to want to complete a level instead of just running through it. One approach they went with, you can complete the hardest level right from the start. The Impossible Lair right from the beginning. However, the game heavily encourages you to not only collect more lives, aka Bs, but also collect even more by expanding the overworld. Expanding the latter requires the player to simply collect as many Twit coins hidden in each level. Now in terms for the future, remember this is from December 2019, Gavin Price had stated that it's to be revealed. They were really excited about the potential for the Yooka IP, if of course given the chance. Same goes for other genres they could explore. They were fully aware of what fans were asking for. If I personally recall, many fans were curious about Twoka-Laylee, an actual direct sequel to the first game, but it was also mentioned, especially considering the size of the team at Playtonic, that they can't simply tackle 10 things at once. After some time, 2021 to be exact, they started to go on new ventures, one which would expand the potential at Playtonic. Playtonic Games in early 2021, February to be exact, introduced us to Playtonic Friends. The team wanted to expand their potential, and one way of doing that would be to launch a publishing division. The Friends part in the division holds a lot of significance for the team, that being their method of approach. They wanted to take a friendlier approach, Gavin explained. It's just how we do it that I think sets us apart. It really isn't corporate driven or about milestones and all these horrible words that makes your spine shiver as a developer. For us, it's about finding great content and enabling them to stay exactly as they are, but with less pressure. Even with the new publishing division of theirs, Playtonic still had the mindset of 90% developer and 10% publishing. They still want to make more games, but while also helping others. This in the end could result in even more games coming from these developers, and could help them become sustainable. During the launch of Playtonic Friends, they were still asked about the future of Yooka-Laylee, but it was too early for the team to say anything on that front. Would Playtonic become a self-publisher? Would they publish their own game, you might ask? Price explained that it simply depends. Yooka-Laylee, for example, was published by Team 17. If Playtonic deems another publisher worthy of value, they might go with them. Now, they haven't stopped there just yet. On November 18th, 2021, Playtonic announced that a minority of their stake got acquired by Tencent. This right here was shared on their official press release. Tencent being known as an immense online investment corporation, Playtonic felt they could expand their horizon further than ever before. This would include potentially exploring new IPs, hiring even more people, and simply just growing as a team, expand their network, to put it differently. During this press release, Gavin Price also mentioned how they had 3 successful launches ever since their Playtonic Friends publishing division. Naturally, having emphasis on publishing might make some a bit curious as to what Playtonic themselves could do as a developer moving forward. If anything, it was explained that Playtonic would retain full creative control over its IP. So, with the whole minority stake acquisition by Tencent, what could this possibly mean for Playtonic's IP Yooka-Laylee? Again, where is Twoka-Laylee or Yooka-Twolee? Should we even be expecting a direct sequel to the first game after all this time? There was an article, an interview with Gavin Price over on Games Industry back on November 18th, 2021. That's the same exact day they shared their press release surrounding Tencent's minority stake acquisition. Price did mention that they've been in talks with Tencent surrounding 3D platforming. That genre, Price explained, is something they do want to go back to, even noting that it's one of the key genres they want to remain active in. So with that, there's potential for more Yooka-Laylee, and who knows, it could turn out to be Twoka-Laylee one day. They still really care about Yooka-Laylee and went so far as to mention that we wanted to have an aspiration goal as well, which was to make Yooka-Laylee an IP that could appear on a major fast food chain's kids' meal box. Simply put it, ever since their Kickstarter for Yooka-Laylee, they wanted to simply expand their team to whatever extent they could. Grow their company, bring even more games to the table more often, move locations, open new locations. The crux of it is scaling up our game development teams, getting more hires, and being able to operate multiple teams concurrently. We are looking to build a workforce that is a lot more shareable across projects. If, say, Playtonic had remained as this one big team, Price mentioned that, hey, we most likely would have already announced something by now. Even before Tencent, the team, he explained, was already split into 3. More teams, naturally, that would take even longer to announce something. Plus, they don't want 3 teams working on similar games. All in all, seeing as how they still have love for the 3D platformer genre, a sequel to Yooka-Laylee could potentially happen. They still care about their IP, that's something at least. In the end, it's all about time and patience. Who really knows what's in store for the Yooka-Laylee franchise? As an extra, in 2020, a response to a fan asking for a 3D sequel to the first game, Playtonic stated, "We'd love to. Let's see what the future holds, eh?" With that said, we're going to leave it at that. If you have any thoughts about this whole thing, feel free to share it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, perhaps you'd like to subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Like always, thank you to my patrons and viewers, and yeah, until next time.